Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for another episode of Stories of Christmas Joy. I have one story from my friend Gayla here to share with you today that I learned about last year after the Christmas season that just filled my heart with so much joy, and it filled my eyes with lots of tears too. So I invited Gayla on. She was really this story was really kind of the inspiration to share these stories with you, because the entire intent that I wrote Seeking Joy Through the Gospel of Luke was to help embolden you and to give you courage to speak the good news of great joy. And Gayla had an amazing opportunity to do that last Christmas season. So I'm very excited for you to hear her story. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Dr. Gayla Campbell, my friend that I've met through the ministries of speaking and writing, and we're so overjoyed that you're here today. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then just go ahead and launch into your story.
Okay. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I really believe that when you were writing this book, God already knew that Gary and I would be on a beach in Belize reading this book, and that he would open doors that we had no clue was coming. And I'm very, very grateful that you followed him when he was leading you to write this book. My husband and I have G&G Ministries, and we travel a lot, and we do concerts, we do speaking engagements, and usually in December is when we try to slow it down and we go somewhere warm. We love fall, but when it gets winter time, we're like, let's see if we can find a warm place. Last Christmas, or last December, I had already had a chance to meet you through Zoom, through some meetings, and you had talked about your book that was coming out, and I ordered it thinking, that would be a great book for us to kind of sink our teeth into while we're in a warm place. We'll still be connected to Christmas. So we get this book, we are reading through it. We're also at a place in our life where Gary had just finished an interim music director position, and we were just there for like 6 months or so, and we knew it was going to be a short season. And we were looking at, what are we going to do next? What's next? So we're in this book, and it just so happens that one of your chapters is Follow Me for Joy. And we had read that, and we realized, he's not through with us yet. We don't know what seasons are coming up. My husband is retired now. I'm going to be retiring in a year. I'm hoping. That is my plan anyway. We'll see what God has for me. But that chapter just meant so much to us. And we were really in prayer a lot that we really did want to follow him. That was our whole goal for years, is just to follow what he wants. Then the next day, your chapter is, and I've got your book here because I don't want to mess up the names of your chapters. It's Witness and Worship with Joy. And we are reading this chapter while we are sitting there on the beach. And there's a family close to us in proximity. Looks like, a family of 5. And they're not, most people are laughing and playing and having a big time. And they're kind of just sitting there. And the mom says to me, "Oh, you guys are reading a book?" And I said, "Yes, it's Seeking Joy." And I showed it to her and was telling her a little bit about it. And she said, "So do you really believe in this Jesus? Is this a real thing?" And I mean, it was like the doors just flew open, and my husband especially started sharing Christ and what he does in our life, and how when he is the center of our life, how it changes, and how that joy, just we're over flooded with joy. And so we shared Jesus with them. And then because they were on the East Coast and we're in Texas, we hooked them up with some friends of ours that live on the East Coast. And my understanding is they are still involved in a church that is in Connecticut, actually. And so it was just one of those moments when you knew, there was no doubt in either of our minds, God had set that up. And it was meant, that is exactly what he meant us to be doing that day. And I don't know how other people view witnessing to others. I think a lot of times people are afraid. They don't want people to think differently of them. There's generally a lot of fear and get tongue-tied, not sure what to say. But I promise you, God gives us the words. And I mean, they were just flooding out of my husband. I was just like, wow.
Like
this is, there was no doubt that God was in that moment. No doubt. And so it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And just realizing that God had that all, that was a divine appointment that he had set up. And that's where we were supposed to be.
That is like, it's still putting tears in my eyes just to hear it again, because it's amazing that I keep saying, like, this book cover covered in snow. Yes. And you're sitting on a sandy beach. I bet the people were like, well, we're trying to get away from the snow right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. Like, God set that up in Belize of all places. Like,
absolutely.
you guys planned a vacation there. They planned a vacation there. They were Americans, so they could understand, the good news of great joy that you were about to just drop on their life. And that is, I'm completely blown away. And you probably do this too, Gayla. Every morning when I'm in my quiet time and praying time, in my writing and speaking, it's always like, I do it for the one. I do it for Jesus. Like, Jesus is my right. Joy is really not my feeling, but I have found, like, through this journey that I've been with Jesus, that the true definition of joy is Jesus. And I pray about serving him, the one. And then I also ask the Lord to help me uplift or share his joy with one person a day. That's all that it matters. So if I indeed did write this book for one person on a beach in Belize, we just give God all the glory for that.
Absolutely.
And the fact that family, that mom, was willing to open her mouth and ask questions too. I mean, that's amazing. In my history, growing up in the church, I call myself a casual Christian before I started reading God's word every day over recent years. And I never would have been one to open my mouth and share the good news of great joy. And so now, once you get that joy down in your heart, how can you not share about it? That's how I feel every day. So
exactly.
And I'm so grateful to you and your husband that you just took this little book with you on vacation, not expecting anything other than probably just to be uplifted daily, through the Gospel of Luke too. And it's a good practice to read the Gospels over and over again. So thank you so much. Do you have a favorite story from the Gospel of Luke personally?
Actually, I do. There's two verses that say pretty much the same thing. One of the verses is referring to when the shepherds came to see Jesus in the manger. And then the second was when Jesus was at the synagogue talking with the religious leaders. The first one is Luke 2:19. And it says, "But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart." She treasured these moments. And then the next one is Luke 2:51, and it says, and then he went down to Nazareth, they're talking about Jesus, with them, and was obedient to them. And this is after they found him talking to the religious leaders in the synagogue. And they're on their way back home. And it says, but his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And for me, in both these cases, Mary's response becomes very emblematic, symbolic of that deeper response that I feel like I need to Jesus' words. And I think each of us are called to make that response. And it's a calling that invites us to ponder, to meditate, reflect on the meaning and the significance of Jesus' life and his words and how that impacts our life, how he impacts our life. And so those two verses really mean a lot to me. And I noticed that, and in your book, you mentioned that verse too. And it just, one of the other things that you mentioned in your book is that there was a period of time when you were not in God's word like you are now. Mm-hmm. I was in those shoes too. I picked it up for Bible study. And if there was something, coming up, and I thought, I better read so I, don't sit there and look like I know nothing. And just kind of grabbed it for convenience or for show even, because I didn't want to sit there and be the only one that didn't know what they were talking about. Now it has much more meaning to me, and it's every day. And when I miss a day, I miss it. I miss that time with him. So being able to have that time to meditate and to reflect on his words, earlier, I think you said something about health and spirituality, and it may be a question you're about to ask. I don't remember now. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I think we have to be in his word every day in order for all areas of our life, not just the spiritual life, but in all areas of our life, to be healthy and for well-being.
Yeah. And I love that your verses were from Luke chapter 2. Of course, that's where we find the traditional Christmas story. And most people know about the angels and the shepherds and everything showing up, but there's so much in chapter 2. And when I sign my book, I always include Luke 2:19 with like a little heart next to it, as Mary treasured and pondered all these things in her heart. And truly, like, the journey of surrendering and being sold out to Jesus is a journey of a heart transformation, right? And we look at our heart health, I'm not doing like medical speak, but truly it is about our heart health. And what I've learned in this journey of digging into God's word every day, and even my physical and my emotional healing didn't come together until I started getting my spiritual health in order, started getting my spiritual health in order. And the heart transformation has been one about, examining our thoughts and our emotions, and then using God's word as motivation to keep pursuing him, and having the courage to step out and do things in obedience that he's calling us to. And when you are living through a heart transformation, and this is what I consider like the joy in my heart, that you can't keep it secret, but the last part of a heart transformation that I've learned from studying some things about David in the Psalms is action. Like, you have to act on it.
Exactly.
And it gives, you get the courage to act on it. And that's what Luke 2, the angels are talking about. We have to go out and share the good news of great joy. We can't keep it a secret to ourselves. And I have found that people are so much more receptive to the good news of great joy during the Christmas season. So I always encourage us as believers to take advantage of that. And you certainly did, sitting on a beach in Belize. Did your husband have the chance to talk to them about the Christmas story? Is that kind of how
yes. That is sort of how it started, because on the front of your book it says a Christmas to Calgary Advent countdown, and so that was part of the conversation, And later at the end of our conversation, it was about how Christmas is so much more than what the world has made it out to be. And that, whether God or Jesus was born on December 25th, we don't know that for sure. But it is the time that we have set aside to celebrate his birth, which is so much more important than Santa.
Right. Exactly. And then the count, people are like, well, how did you take the whole Gospel of Luke? Why did you pick the whole Gospel of Luke instead of just chapter 2? And I'm like, well, the commercialization of Christmas, so many people know that we're celebrating the birth of Jesus, but then what? And I love parts of chapter 2 also that talk about Jesus growing in his, fully man, fully God, but as man, he was growing physically, and it talks about him being stronger and gaining wisdom, and then I wanted to take the whole Gospel of Luke, because you see the news about him, his coming, and then his birth, and then him growing up as a child, and then he begins his earthly ministry. And then where do you find the joy on Calvary? I mean, that he's facing down that very difficult situation, full of despair for all of the people watching this. Where's the joy in that? Well, friends, you go on this joy-seeking journey through the Gospel of Luke, I guarantee you that you will find the joy even in the most difficult circumstances. And that's what, once you have a true understanding of joy, then you have the ability to find joy even in the most difficult of circumstances. So that is the good news of great joy that we are, as believers, so blessed to be able to share throughout the year. So I just love your story. I'm so grateful that God gave you the opportunity to speak into that family, and now they have a understanding. You said they're still connected with the church, and so are you guys still keeping in contact with them?
Not as much with them as with our friends that are in Connecticut. They keep us updated on how they're doing, and they're in the Sunday school classes that they're in and what they're studying. They had an opportunity when they got back. This particular church has a new believers that kind of grounds them, which I think is great, because I think so many new believers, they believe, and then they're just like, okay, now what? And they're all excited and they're filled with joy, but it's like, okay, what's next? Right. And so they had the opportunity to look at, okay, this is what's next, and this is how it really impacts our life. So I was really thrilled to hear that they were involved in that.
That is so awesome. So amazing. Just from sitting on a sandy beach. That is so awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that story with us. But now I want anybody that's going to be watching this replay, and I see a few of us, few people are on live. Share a little bit about your ministry, what you're up to these days, and then how can people connect with you?
Okay. Right now we are in the process of we were supposed to have an in-person conference with David Brannick, which I know you know him also. And we were so excited about him coming to Texas. He's actually in Tennessee. And for whatever reason, it did not work out for us to do in person.
Okay.
And one of the things my husband said, he said, you do realize that we went from a local group of people to now it's worldwide, because it will be on video and people can see it online. And I said, wow, that's a great reframe. I had not thought of that, because I was like kind of disappointed. And I had been looking so forward to meeting David in person. But it's called Shake, Shine, and Show. And it's based on the end of Matthew, where or not end of Matthew, but I think it's Matthew 5, the Beatitudes, where God is saying, you are the salt of the earth. Well, we're going to shake our salt with all our might. You are the light of the world. Well, we're going to shine our light so bright and that we are to show his glory. And that was the basis of this. So right now we are putting together the videos that David did, the videos that we've done here, our worship leader, and we're putting it together so that we can put that online. So that's what's going on right now. We're also working on a study in Jonah that the focus of that is our personal growth with God, and how sometimes we fight it, but what joy there is when we don't, and how it works it out, whether we're fighting it or not. It's to his glory. So we're working on that. That will be a Bible study that will also be online, and we're kind of kicking around the idea of maybe even putting that in book form. We're not sure that is what God is wanting at this point or not. Also, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of writing, not only for the Bible studies, but also I write music that Gary, my husband, records. And so we're going to be putting that together at some point. Anytime we're invited somewhere, we go. And we're excited to go. And so, and we've been doing this for 7 years, I guess, about 7 years. The speaking that you and I were attending and learning more about, that has picked up some, and that's been really a wonderful experience for me, in that it makes me stay in his word. You know, even those mornings when I'm like, oh, do I want to get out of bed and do? Yes, because if I don't, again, you know, I don't know what I'm doing when I'm standing in front of people. So,
Exactly.
It motivates me.
Exactly.
So those things are going on right now. We're starting to kind of put some events into 2023. We'll be in Branson, Missouri, the second week of November. And then after that, always in December, we kind of slow down, you know, and we are in our local church. We'll be doing, you know, the Christmas cantata at our church with them and that sort of thing. And then we always try to find some place that's warm, and we haven't decided where we're going. So we'll see. Yeah. And that is our rest and relaxation time.
That sounds lovely. I was going to ask you, where are you going to go this year? So you don't know.
Yeah, we haven't decided this year. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And people can find you at 𝒿andgministries.com. Okay.
It's .org. Yeah.
It's .org. Okay.
Yeah. 𝒿andgministries.org.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put that link in. It's in the Facebook Live description. We'll put it in the Facebook comments, and then we'll put it in the description when I upload this on YouTube as well, so that people can find you and your music and your ministry. And yeah, it's just been delightful to have you on and sharing that story. I know a few people have popped on and are still watching. But if you came in a little late, make sure you go back and hear Gayla's story, because it's really encouraging and inspirational, because you never know when you might find yourself on a beach in Belize and someone's asking you about the good news of great joy. Let her story inspire you. So thank you so much, Gayla, for being with me today. I look forward to more people watching this. And if you were watching, leave a comment, say hello below. And we will see you again next time for the next episode of Stories of Christmas Joy. Take care.